Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, we'll speak with Alberto Rios about his new role as Arizona's first ever Poet Laureate. And author Jana Boomersbach talks about her latest literary effort, this one a children's book. Those stories next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. ASU Regents Professor Alberto Rios was recently named Arizona's inaugural Poet Laureate. It's a position state lawmakers created to honor Arizona's centennial. Rios is a native of Nogales and an award-winning author of numerous books of poetry and short stories. I talked to Alberto Rios about his new role. We welcome Alberto Rios to Arizona Horizon. Indeed,
I'm so pleased to be here. This is the place to be.
And congratulations! Now, congratulations, right? This is a good thing.
Work, work, work.
Yeah, I was going to say, what does a poet laureate do?
That's an excellent question. It is yet to be invented, but everybody seems to think it means more work.
Well, then congratulations in quotations there. Are you getting advice from other poet laureates? I think we're the 43rd state now to have one.
I think that's about right.
Are you hearing anything, or you looked at anything?
I've gotten advice. I've got, if you're in the field, you're going to meet everybody who's doing these sorts of things. And I know probably most of the poets laureate out there.
Yeah.
And getting a little bit of advice, mostly don't do everything.
Yes, I would imagine that would be it. The governor's office, the quote was, "You represent Arizona's values, independence, and uniquely Western culture." What are your thoughts when you hear something like that?
I believe it. Well, I believe it to the extent that I think that is what my life has been. I mean, I grew up on the border. I have an intrinsic, a really important Arizona story that I think I've lived. And my father was born in Mexico. My mother was born in England. I grew up on the border. It was quite a mix of ideas, a mix of languages, a mix of foods, different things in the refrigerator. Sorting that all out is part of what I think made me a writer, and part of what made me an Arizonan, and part of that independence and that Western sensibility comes out of that.
When did you start writing poetry?
Oh, when did I start writing poetry? When did I start writing? I don't know that you're ever writing something, but it had very little to do with putting pen to paper. It had to do with getting in trouble. And it was second grade, and I was busted for the egregious crime of daydreaming. This was the 1950s. This was a big deal. My parents were hauled into to school. And yet I know now that I think that was the beginning of it, because as a second grader, you can't write a novel, really, but you can think one. And if you're taught about being, let's say you're being taught about explorers, what do you think you want to do as a second grader? You want to go out and be an explorer, but you can't even walk across the street without somebody holding your hand, which puts a crimp in your explorer style. What you can do, however, is put that big thing, that excitement, somewhere. I think too often we think kids are, second graders, first graders, they're all bouncing around on a kind of sugar or bad manners or whatever it is. We don't think that maybe they're excited because they've just learned something, which in retrospect I think is how I reacted to what I was doing there.
So when were you able to put that excitement into the form of, be it short stories, but especially poetry, because poetry is very different, and it's I think kids kind of think of poetry in song lyrics and rap lyrics these days and those sorts of things. But when did you say, this is it, this makes sense to me, I can express myself with this?
Well, it was a dangerous route, and I can tell you right where that danger was. It was the back of my notebook, starting in maybe junior high, high school. You're supposed to be doing what you're supposed to be doing at the front of your notebook. When you go to the back, you're in trouble. You're looking for trouble. There's just no getting around it. You're going to make a spitwad. You're going to throw something to somebody. You're going to write a note to somebody. Well, I started writing things, and I don't have wording for it. It didn't have a word in the back of my notebook, and it was because of the front of my notebook. We think of poetry today as kind of a staid, homework-oriented sort of thing. Things we memorize, things that are kind of dead in the water. And that's not what poetry is for me at all. It's totally uninvented yet. It doesn't exist. It's what I encounter and what I'm going to make. It's not what I've written or what others have written. So I think there's a very different feeling about it. As I started to write things in the back of my notebooks, words, phrases, I don't know why I did that. And so I couldn't show it to anybody. And therefore, it was mine. I couldn't show it to a teacher because I wasn't doing it for homework, or it would have been in the front. I couldn't show it to my parents because that's the law of being a kid. And I couldn't show it to my friends because I was pretty sure they weren't doing that.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it started for me. And they grew, and they grew into things that later became poems.
So when did you start showing them to people, and when did you realize that when people saw these things, you thought you were pretty good?
Well, I don't know that anybody, makes that leap immediately, because people don't know what to make of poems.
Yes.
You get a poem shared with you. I'm not sure we're trained. I'm not sure we know how to respond. When we listen to a great song, we go, oh, that's great. You listen to a great poem, you go, huh. Because we don't have a vocabulary exactly for sharing intimate, things with each other in that way, in words. So I think I started doing this in high school, started showing it a little bit, but high school writing is high school writing.
Sure.
No getting around it. Mine was no different. And I think it was in college, and I know for sure that my formal training, when I really did have to start showing it to people, came my junior year. I went to U of A after coming out of Nogales. But for me, Nogales was not a college prep experience, so I just really went to 13th grade in my mind. And that saved me. So I got through my first 2 years at U of A, and those first 2 years were set. You didn't really have any choices. Junior year, that was the year computers came to universities. And what that meant, if you were a student, is for the first time, you could pre-register. So me and the other 2 people that had gone to college were in my bedroom that summer. We were reading the college catalog, looking for what everybody else in the world that summer was looking for, every other college student. The mythical, easiest courses we could find. We knew how to do this. And I'm reading through, of all places, English department, which I'd been through freshman English and hated it, just like everybody. I mean, that was just ridiculous. But I got to what was then called English 9, which is unheard of today. It just makes me laugh. Introduction to Poetry Writing. Blah, 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 blah. It didn't really mean anything to me at the moment. Blah, 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 blah. At the end, it said, no final.
Uh-oh.
I said, oh, man.
A winner.
Sign me up. So I tricked myself, I think, that way. English 10, Introduction to Fiction Writing, I signed up for that too, no final. But it was the great trick of academia, the great trick of learning. It just says, whatever the enticement is, just come and try it. And I did, and I started showing things then.
With that in mind, I want you to give us a definition. What is poetry? And for you, has that definition changed over the years?
Yeah, I think it suffers no good definition. So I'm always, every time I pick up a poem, if I'm in the classroom and trying to explicate a poem or talk to a student about a poem, I've got to reinvent what the meaning, what the strength of poetry is, even though it's got centuries of discourse behind it. I've got to reinvent it in that moment and say it all over again in my own words each time. So whatever definition I'm going to give you now, and I think it's anything worth remembering, for example, and the impulse is when you're walking down the street and you turn to somebody and say, hey, did you see that? It's a poetic impulse. I want to remember that. That was worth, it was worth you seeing it, not just me, and I wish you had.
In that respect, I was reading some of the things you've written about poetry, and you emphasize the moment more than you do the narrative. The narrative is fiction, but is it a series? Is poetry a series of moments that work together, that don't work together?
Both, and it depends on the kind of poem you're trying to write. We talk a lot about, and I specifically talk a lot about what I call integrity of the line. That if every line is good, you don't need to worry about the entirety. This is an old idea. You know, when people open up the Bible and they point to a single line and they take instruction from that for the rest of the day or whatever, it's an old practice, and it actually began before the Bible, and it's called claromancy. It began with the works of Virgil, where people would open up this book of poems and they'd put their finger on a line, not on a poem, but on a line, and that was the test. If it isn't good wherever I point, it's not a good poem. So when students ask me, Professor Rios, where should the best line in a poem be? You know, the journalist students, they say, it's got to be the first line, the hook line. And the science fiction students, no, it's got to be the last line. I woke as if from a dream, you know. And I say, no, man, the best line in a poem better be the line I'm reading.
Interesting.
And it's an impossible standard, and why would we want any other? Right?
With that in mind, how do you write a poem? Do you emphasize rhyme? Do you emphasize meter, syllables, jambit? What do you, when you write a poem, do you sit down and write, this one's going to be about this and it's going to be about that long, or do you wait for the muse? What happens?
I get led. I get led by some words, by some incitement, whatever it might be. But all those things, meter and rhyme and all those things which people think aren't in use today, that's clearly not true. Writers are using those things all the time, including in traditional ways. But it's just like a basketball player who shoots the basket over and over and over again so that you stop thinking about it. Mm-hmm. I think I'm at a point now where that's not what I think about. I don't think about the tools I'm going to use to make the poem. I just start to be led, and I can bring to bear all of the things that I've worked on in the writing of it. And so, and you're going to want to know, how do you write a poem? And it's just like defining poetry. It is, and I'm not exaggerating, it is different every time. And if it weren't, I'd be scared.
Are there times when the line looks like it's too long, or the line looks like it's too short?
There's a visual element, and we're tricked by that, because oddly enough, you know, a line, we think of storyline, and you know, how long is a storyline? How long is a novel? Well, you see a novel and you're looking at it, and actually the container, the book, is terrible in that you're reading the line and then you get to the end of the page and thunk, you hit a brick wall and you fall down one, you're dazed, you go to the next line, hit the wall again, you fall down, that's a terrible way to read a novel, or to read prose, to read a story. A storyline is probably 2 miles long, half an inch high, and it fits straight into the ear. It's really an elegant idea. And a book is a terrible container for it. Mm. Now, a poem, those lines, we're still circumscribed by the book. And I think too often, that's how we end up writing things. It looks like a poem.
Yeah.
But I think there is something to the idea that a regular line is about 10 syllables, 10 feet long, and there's something about the cadence of English. Different languages work differently, so that there's something about how long does it take to say one thing, or one thing about one thing, and a poetic line is a pretty good measure of that.
If poets and critics see brilliance in a particular poem, but most people who read it don't see that brilliance there, is that a good poem?
That's an excellent question. What I think is there's a failure to communicate somewhere, and it's not the poem's fault necessarily. It's we're not talking to each other about what it is that thrills us, what matters, what makes something great. And so very often what critics will see is the juxtaposition of things that have never gone together before. They might be totally mundane, but those two words or those two ideas have simply never gone together before. And a reader who's not used to that, is just reading the regularity of those words, has no way to decipher that. So I think the conversation needs to be opened up.
And yet, a couple of quotes from you.
Yes.
The first one is, play no tricks on the reader and exact no requirements. The second one is, if you have to tell your reader just to keep reading, it'll all make sense here in the future, you're not writing poetry, you're writing prose.
That's right.
So if I'm reading something and these words, they look like non sequiturs, they're juxtapositioning all over the page, and I'm not getting it, I'm being required to do something there, aren't I?
Well, you're being required to get a different poem. You don't have to like it all. And we have a very generic sensibility about poetry as one big sublime thing. Not true. It's like it's food. You like some foods, you don't like other foods, and it's okay.
So how best do you approach a poem?
With an open mind. And I want to be taught by the poem how to read it. And if I don't bring myself to it in an overbearing way, a poem will often be able to show me what's important about it. So when I read it, I often put it in the mouth. It's important. It's an oral tradition, ultimately, after all. And I read it, and I try to listen to it. I don't try to say what it's trying to do. I try to listen to what it's trying to share with me.
And if it wants you to take Avenue A and reading it aloud, and then internally you find yourself on Avenue B, so be it.
So be it. And sometimes you take a wrong turn.
Yeah.
But that's also you as a creative respondent. You're going to go off and, oh man, they didn't do it. It's making me think of another poem, and I'm going to write something because of it. So sometimes it's a trigger for that.
Great conversation. I could go on forever on this kind of stuff. But the last question here,
Yes.
You're the Poet Laureate now. You're charged with going out into Arizona and what? I mean, to make people understand, what? Just expose people to poetry and things they may not be familiar with?
I think to the best parts of language. Language in this state and really in the country has been so problematized. But languages aren't problems. Languages are solutions. And the best of language, poetry, I'm just going to be presumptuous and say that, has something to offer simply and innately because of that. It's going to say something to someone else, and if someone else can hear that, if it's conversation, it's what I call kitchen table conversation, we're going to be better off. And I think I've got a lot to say about that.
Well, good. We can't wait to hear you say more. You certainly said a lot tonight. It's good to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us.
I appreciate it.
We want to hear from you. Submit your questions, comments, and concerns via email at arizonahorizon@asu.edu.
As a local journalist, she wrote about politicians and investigated true crime. Now Jenna Boomersbach is out with a children's book. It's titled A Squirrel Story, A True Tale. Jenna Boomersbach joined us to talk about this new effort. It's good to see you again. How are you?
Hello. This is Shirley, Mama Squirrel. This is my squirrel puppet that I take and show to children, and she's the big hit of the story.
She's a big hit of the story. It's amazing. You walk in here, you've got a children's book out, you got product already out there moving.
Exactly.
You really got, well, let's talk about how did you become a children's writer?
Well, the thing, and Shirley, you want to lay down? Sure. The story behind this is that my mother told me to write this book. This is based on a true story that my mother and father witnessed in their backyard in Hankinson, North Dakota, back in 2007. And ever since then, Mother has said, you've got to write this book. I mean, she called me up that day and she said, I've got your next book. You've got to write a book about this squirrel. You can't believe what I just saw this squirrel do. And she told me the story of this squirrel mother who was having a great deal of trouble with her babies and who had set up housekeeping of all places, a birdhouse. And of course, squirrels don't live in birdhouses.
Sure.
So that was like this, So she's been after me ever since then to do this book. And finally, I met a publisher who said, have you ever wanted to write a children's book? And I said, well, my mother wants me to. And so that was the start of it. And so I'm finally doing what my mother told me to do.
So was this something that, again, was the publisher found? Was the story written? Give us the order here.
It actually was on Centennial Day. I was at the state capitol on February 14th, 2012. I ran into Linda Radke, who is the publisher of Five Star Publications out of Chandler, which is one of these great publishing houses that almost nobody in Arizona even knows she's here, although they all know her books because she does fantastic children's books. And she's a great treasure of Arizona, who I was so proud to meet her and so pleased to meet her. And when she said, have you ever wanted to write a children's book? And I went, well, my mother wants me to. She says, well, let's talk. And so about 2 weeks later, I called her up and we talked. I told her the story. She loved the story. And she said, let me send you a contract. She sends me a contract with a deadline, 4 months down the road.
Oof.
So I was at that point writing a historical novel. I was thinking about some other true crime books, and all of a sudden I've got to change all my thinking to try to write a children's book.
I want to talk to you about that. How do you write for children? You don't talk down to them, but you have to explain what's going on. How difficult was that?
It's very scary, Ted. It's very scary. Adults, you know how to write to adults because you're an adult and you know they filter and they know. Children, they don't have those filters. Children, the responsibility of writing for a child is enormous. I mean, you have to be very, very accurate. You have to be very clear. You have to not write down to ever write down to them. Never try to treat them like they're little babies. You have to always make them kind of step up a tiny bit.
Make them reach a little bit.
Reach a little bit, but not so much that they can't understand what's going on. You have to entertain them as well as educate them. I mean, you have a lot of responsibilities with a child, and it's very daunting. It's very scary. And you sit there and you think, oh my goodness, I'll never be able to do this.
Did you write for a particular child? Was there a little child on your shoulder? Did you write for young Jana? Who did you write for?
Oh, that's a great question. No one's ever asked me that question. You know, I don't know I don't know exactly who I was writing to. I was trying to write, I think I was writing to like every little child that I knew. I have a lot of neighborhood children, and I think I was trying to write to those children that I knew. I thought, okay, if I'm talking to these children, and maybe they'll understand this way. But it was like, first you've got to figure out who's going to tell the story, what voice are you going to have, right? And go through all this stuff. I didn't know a thing about squirrels. I mean, when my parents called and said, you know, basically you need to know that squirrels don't live in birdhouses, which becomes the first sentence of the book, which was the first thing I really knew about squirrels. So I did what I do as a journalist. I went and I started researching squirrels and found out, to my amazement, that there is an enormous amount of research on squirrels. They know everything about these creatures.
Well, there's a lot of squirrels out there to research. I mean, in other parts of the country, these things are all over the place.
I know, and there's like 2,000 varieties of them, right?
Yes.
So I started researching squirrels, found out all these cute little things and these little secrets about squirrels, and that's what the children love the most. When I'm reading these books, I tell them the secrets of squirrels, how they communicate, how they laugh, how they, you know, mark their food and stuff. That's the parts they love.
Isn't that interesting?
The most. They love being like they know something special.
Talk about the illustrator now. There are beautiful illustrations in here. They go along with the story nicely. Did you pick the illustrator?
No, my publisher picked the illustrator. It's Jeff Yesh. He's out of Indiana. It's someone that she'd worked with in the past. She sent them my story, the pages that they had sort of basically laid out, and he started illustrating. I thought he did a magnificent job. I thought that he so captured the characters. I mean, one of the major characters in this book is a big, fat, mean, black cat, right? Now, for all cat lovers in this world, she has a good time at the end.
Yes.
So
yes.
we don't
I was wondering if that cat would ever show up again, but apparently we took care of the cat. Yeah.
Had to. But the cat, it's just this ominous black cat, and the children. It's a great big huge illustration at the beginning of the book, and the kids are, oh, there's the cat. Oh my goodness, that cat looks so mean, and she's licking her lips, and you just know she's after the squirrel. And so he captured the essence, not only what the words were, but what the feeling of that book was.
But you know, sometimes playwrights and screenwriters, they write, and all of a sudden they see the product either on the stage or on the screen, and sometimes they're happy, and sometimes it builds and grows. Sometimes they go, this is not, I'm not so happy. When you finally got the book and saw the illustrations, was it a whole new story? Was it what you wrote? Was it a different story?
I understood the story better when I thought the illustrator did such a magnificent job. I understood the story better. I liked the story more. I thought the story just came alive. I mean, he gave total personality to my characters, that more than you can ever do with words. I mean, what you can do, there's one scene where my dad and mom are in this book, right? So my dad is spraying the black cat, and the squirrel is saying, you know, I knew they didn't like the cat either because I saw Rudy spraying the cat. Well, and he's got the little squirrel on her back laughing like crazy, right?
Yes.
And it's like one of those little tiny touches that you just think.
Well, even as an adult, I'm reading and I'm going, which one is the boy? Oh, that must be the boy squirrel because he looks timid. I mean, you're caught up in the illustrations.
Right.
Now, are you going to write another children's book?
I am.
Are you really?
I am.
You found something here to latch on to a little bit?
Yes, another true story. I have this tendency of liking true stories and making them into books, and so I have a story called A Bear That Nobody Wanted, and it's based on a true story, so we hope that's going to be my next book.
And you can bring in a big old bear next time you show up.
Next time I'll bring in a big old bear, and this guy is so cute. He's an outrageously good bear. You're going to want to see this guy.
And I got to mention, did I see a blurb from Rose Mofford on the back of your book?
Rose Mofford endorsed this book. She was delightful. Terry Goddard said some nice words about this book. Ellen Dean, who is the Arizona chair of a thing called Book PALS, which is a Screen Actors Guild program to bring actors and authors into schools to read to children, and I'm now a part of that program because of this. I mean, this has opened up a whole new life for me. I mean, I'm now volunteering regularly at Capital School, reading to children in the library and being involved in going to schools and seeing children. Eileen Bailey, who has a thing called Kids Read, which gives free books to needy children, she bought 300 of my books to pass out to children.
That's beautiful.
Which was just such a wonderful thing.
And it's just so nice to know that it makes someone happy. I mean, you write about a trunk murderess, you don't know who's going to respond and how. You write about a squirrel sending the babies off into the world. Most important question, though, how did Mom and Dad feel about it?
My dad has since passed away, so we never got to see the book.
Oh, that's too bad.
My mother is just over the moon. I mean, of all the things I've ever done in my life, this is the thing I think she thinks is the best thing I've ever done.
Well, congratulations. It's a hoot, and I loved seeing the product out there already. Product placement, you got to love it. And the squirrels are fantastic. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Dan.
And that is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.
If you have comments about Arizona Horizon, please contact us at one of the addresses on your screen. Your comments may be used on a future edition of Arizona Horizon. Thank you. Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.